Hello, Shannon. We're so excited to have you on the In Control podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for
Yeah, thank you so
joining.
much for making the time. Do you want to just really quick intro yourself? Tell us a bit about what you've been up to and what your current initiatives are.
Ooh, okay, well, I'm Shannon Lovgren. I am a sustainability expert and a philanthropy advisor and an entrepreneur and a multi-passionate person with a lot of energy, and I'm doing a lot of things. So,
We're really glad to have you on. I am especially excited to continue our discussions that we had when we first met. You and I first met at the Google Workspace in San Francisco at a climate and sustainability event around waste use. And we kicked off, well, first of all, I'd related a lot to your background, especially some of the things we'll get into. But one of the most exciting things that stuck with me was the perspective that you brought as someone having worked in philanthropy, and taking the perspective of bridging venture work in San Francisco, where we are together with philanthropic funds. And so,
We're just curious about your experience being a founder, what that's looked like, what led you to becoming a founder, and kind of what keeps you motivated during that process, which can oftentimes be very challenging.
so I've been wanting to start my own business for pretty much my whole life, from like when I was a 10-year-old and I was making inventions and thinking like, oh, I should sell this. And I'm 54 now, and I just this year started my own company. Originally, I started a consulting firm, a sustainability consulting firm. And then I got my first clients on the phone and realized that, oh my God, this is my biggest nightmare. I do not want to do that job. I do not want to do people's climate audits. Like, that's not what I want to do. So then I was like, well, what can I want to start something. And I have this time. This is a weird time in my life where I don't have to take care of anybody. I have money in the bank. I can go ahead and do things. And so then I thought, okay, well, I have this knowledge about sustainability. I am going to develop a course. And then I was just like, well, nobody wants this course. Why are you building the course that nobody asked for? I'm not going to, whatever. But I was like, who cares? I'm going to just build it because I'm building it for me, because I have this knowledge. I want to get it out in the world. I'm going to give it as a gift to the world, but for money, because I want to make some money off of it. And I was like, can I do this? This is almost an exercise in, can I build it? And so I started, and it was super slow. And then somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, do you need help? And I was like, for once in your life, do not cheapskate yourself out of help. Go pay for the help that you need. And so I did. And they kind of pushed me along and gave me a structure. And then I started building the course. And I did all the work. They just were there saying, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to do it because I'm a good student. I'm a rule follower. I'm going to just do what I need to do. And then 9 months later, filled with every kind of distraction you could have, whether it be like I worked on the Harris campaign, and then I ended a
no
long-term
way.
relationship, and I did like all these things in this year, and I still did it. I finished it, and now it's out. It's launched. It's on my website, shannonlovgren.com, and then you're going to succeed, and then you're going to try, and then you're going to not try, but just like keep going. So anyway, that's what I think about being a founder. And now I'm super proud. I'm like, look at me, I'm a founder.
Hell yeah.
I'm a founder, I'm the CEO, I'm the president. I built this. Yes, bring it on. I'm coming. I mean, it just feels really good.
There's two things that you said that really stuck out to me. This is just a comment, not really a question, but before the call, we were talking about curiosity and how important that is to have as a person, in the workplace and personally and just in life. And I think it's interesting how when we asked you, okay, so what's it like being a founder? You're like, well, I had this genuine idea that I feel indebted to share with the world. But then I like how you tied in how you received help. And I think a lot of times when founders are sharing their stories, it's just well, I was just, late hours or whatever. I mean, that's sort of like the San Francisco techie
Yeah.
culture that Julian and I like to make fun of. Um, and so I love how you were talking about how, and in your networking, how just meeting people with a genuine curiosity and optimism without the preconceived notion that they owe you anything, and your willingness to ask for help is really inspiring.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, I think people want to help you, and people don't really care about like your passion. Like they don't really have an opinion about it. So just do your
Yeah.
passion,
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
and then the people I mean, I'm hoping that the people who care about what I care about are going to find me. My job, like I know that I could hire a team to go try to find and do the marketing, but I kind of also trust that the people are going to find me.
Hey. Um, and congratulations again for making that leap into starting your own company. There's a lot of people who are stuck there at the ledge waiting to jump. I also wanted to call this experience that we share in East Africa, and I was there for about half a year in 2019, looking at the impacts of conglomerate presence on life in different parts of the area. The, this boils down to development, sustainability, corporation, and yeah, talk to us about your experiences there.
Well, I have several experiences there. So in the late 2000 or like the late 1990s to the early 2000s, I lived in Kenya, and just by a fluke of things, I got a job working at USAID, and it was ended up being like the most amazing job that I have ever had. And so I lived and worked there for 5 years, and it was it was a great time in my life. I had a great community. I loved living in Africa. I loved the people. I loved my job. I loved my
Yeah.
coworkers. Everything was terrific. I think people are stuck with an image of Africa that is so outdated. They think Africa, they're thinking people are living in huts, which they are in the very, very rural areas. But in like Nairobi is a thriving metropolis, and it's very modern. And there is so much opportunity there, and so many smart, educated, entrepreneurial people who have knowledge that's different from the knowledge that you would have living and working in San Francisco. And there's so much opportunity there that is completely overlooked. And there's not a lot of money there because people don't know it and they don't trust it, and they think Africa, they think corruption, or they think weird
Right.
politicians.
They don't trust the infrastructure.
Yeah, and it's just outdated information. Like that is a worldview that is 30 years behind the times. So I don't know what your experience was, Julian, but I was just I get so frustrated when when people think of
Totally.
Africa, they think of this whole continent, and then they think of like poverty.
There's a lot more obstacles in terms of just like making things happen in ways that are as fluid and zero knowledge where you don't really have to think about it. In the US, you do have to, I noticed, a little bit more work, but there is that entrepreneurial spirit. So many of the entrepreneurs I interact with on LinkedIn even are in Kenya and other parts of sub-Saharan Africa, and there are really interesting ideas. I spent a lot of time in the rural areas, but that included like, okay, some of the flower farms around Mount Kenya, talking to the farm owners, and how are we bringing in tech from Europe to maximize watering? How do we build more efficient, using rubber pipes to get to different places like the local clinics and things like that. And there's a lot of pressures. There's a lot of available labor too, which I think has the potential to accelerate development and building. And it certainly has. I mean, just even in 6 months there, I saw transformation with my own eyes. So I think what's really funny is, that's a very different context from San Francisco. There's a lot of entrepreneurial energy there. Goals are different. In San Francisco, it's very profit focused, very software. And now that we're here, there's a bit of a divide. So I'm curious from your perspective, how do you envision the distance between those worlds of development, sustainability, and software?
Yeah. The only way to bridge the divide is to actually start working together and to create partnerships. And the more people see the opportunity, the more opportunity will flow. Kenya specifically is a hotbed of entrepreneurial action. And people are really tech savvy. And so there's not only a lot of developers there, but also, like you said, a lot of people. There's a lot of labor. And 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 the young people are wanting to develop. Nairobi is Africa's Silicon Valley. And that was the case for a while, and then it kind of disappeared. And now with the after COVID, it's gotten harder for them to raise money. They're still there; they still have the opportunity, but the venture capital is not flowing like it should. Creating partnerships and realizing that you have those resources here. I mean, in the Bay Area, everything is really expensive. Labor is really expensive. Seeing where you can build your market, Africa is a huge continent. It's 3 times the size of the United States. So, there's a lot of people there. That's where the majority of the world's population exists, and it's growing there. So if you want to build your future business, you need to get into that market, and you need to start learning it now. And especially as AI develops and the software develops, and those people who are already, everyone's on their phone, and the technology is going to get smaller and
Yeah, they
smaller,
are.
and be more and more connected. This is your opportunity. So I'm hoping that people start to see that for what it is, and that they'll start investing money and go go meet some people.
You and I maybe have a little bit of a bias in the sense that we want to do good. Is there a reason that there isn't money because there's a separation? Are investors just not thinking the way you and I are, and so there's less of an appetite to go in? What's going on?
Well, I think, you don't know what you don't know. So you and I have both been to Kenya. We both spent significant amounts of time there. And the more you become familiar with some place, the more willing you are to trust it. Like right now, there's like, I don't know about Kenya. I don't trust it. I don't have a connection there. So how do I partner? You just don't know what you don't know. But if you were to go there, and some of the bigger venture capital funds are starting to open up offices in East Africa. The more they know, the more they'll be able to do it. So
I like this. I think that it's a lot easier to fill in knowledge gaps than it is to change a whole value system, because we do know VC firms and philanthropists to be mission oriented in their investment, and so that mission is already plugged in to the region. So if we can just get a little bit more exposure of what's going on, that might be all it takes. And then, maybe we can segue into fundraising aspects. So your unique perspective that a lot of philanthropists are interested in investing in venture, and that family offices represent something like 10 to 13 times more of the fund size than the collective of venture capital investment available.
yeah, so donor advised funds are a place where people can put their money. They say, we're going to donate money to charity, then they get a tax write-off right away. So currently there is $260 billion in donor advised funds.
Wow.
And these are funds that are meant to do good in the world. They are supposed to benefit the common good. But meanwhile, people are putting these money in these donor advised funds and letting them sit there and gain more money. They're invested in usually the stock market, Vanguard and Fidelity. And it grows, and they're like, oh, look, we're growing this charity money. Well, who cares if you're growing it? Get it out into the world to do the good that
Totally.
it's supposed to do. Meanwhile, it's just sitting there, and it's making the banks, they get 1% of the fund every year. So, of this $260 billion, the banks are making phenomenal amounts of profits. Meanwhile, there are all these social problems that exist in the world that are not being solved. And that this money, you could literally throw money at the problem and solve those problems,
Hmm.
um, including venture capital. You can use your DAF fund, the money in your DAF fund, to put it into a 501c3, which is a charitable organization, that then puts that money into an early stage startup. For instance, life science, instead of giving money to the American Heart Association, you can give money to a charity that supports innovation in heart research. And they will give that million or $2 million to a entrepreneur.
But just a clarifying question, can that charitable donations vehicle invest in for-profit venture startups?
Yes, they can. However,
Okay. Mhm.
because they've invested it, or they've given a donation to the 501c3, that donor is never going to get the gains on the
The
back end.
return.
So that's the
And neither
difference.
will the vehicle?
No, the vehicle will. So, for instance, say I've invested $1 million into a company that then, is successful, and they come out and they have a liquidity event, then that charity is going to get that money again. And then that charity can reinvest in other early stage companies. And the benefit to an investor is they've already got their tax write off, they got their benefit. But they also get to watch this company develop.
There's like a proof of use.
Yeah, then they can use their venture capital to invest in that company. And that entrepreneur's business has been able to live through that hard time where there's not a whole lot of money in the seed space.
And adding to that, with the big beautiful bill, I have this in my notes here. There was an amendment to the tax treatment of investment that makes it more likely for investors to invest in late stage and making what you said about seed funding less available.
And people say all the time, call me when you're at this, series
Yeah.
B, or, I don't want to write small checks. I don't want to spend my time writing $2 million checks. So
We're hitting on alternative investment strategies. And I feel like we're tag teaming here. You're coming at it from the philanthropist perspective, and I'm coming at it from the founder perspective. And just a quick terminology check. When a charitable organization invests in a company without exchanging equity or taking on equity, is that just called a grant?
yeah, so that's a very good distinction, because you can't say I'm investing in a
Right.
company. This 501(c)(3) is going to give a grant to this entrepreneur. Because of that grant, the 501(c)(3) is going to get the equity. So when that equity vests, the 501(c)(3) gets that money, and then they can do what they want with it. Usually most 501(c)(3)s are in line with their donors and will say, like, what would you like us to do? How would you like us to reinvest this money? We're going to take a percentage for our overhead and for our management of it, which is exactly what a bank does. And nobody ever gives a flying hoot about how the banks get their fees. But everyone, God forbid a 501(c)(3) say, I need 1% of this for
Pay
my
their people.
management.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Everyone's like, what? That's outrageous. And
Right.
it's a double standard, and it's a double standard all across the board. Businesses spend a lot of money on their overhead. Should a nonprofit spend half as much money on the overhead? Everyone's going to scream to high heavens.
I think this leads really well into our next question, being that a lot of climate sustainability and community justice founders experience outsized struggle compared to their product profit driven peers, as we were kind of just speaking about.
Yeah.
And so, what is the outlook for someone who chooses a path where profit is not a central driver? And are the capital flows that finance both completely separate, or?
I have been on this evolution for my whole career, where I started out as working as an NGO worker. I thought, how you're going to save the world is by working for a nonprofit and, like, really get your hands dirty doing the program management and running the programs and helping the people. And then I led education programs, leadership programs, and I thought that was going to be the way to do it. And then when I hit 50, I just coincided with me working with these two ultra high net worth individual women who had a foundation called The Case for Her. And these two women were throwing money at the problem. And the crazy thing was is they were solving big problems. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where I've been my whole life, but money moves the needle. So when I talk to people now about what their career is, yes, you need to be focused on doing the good that you are meant to do, 100%. And you need to make money. And you need to be around both of those people, the finance people, because they're the ones who actually make things happen because they rule the world. And you need to keep yourself grounded in your mission, which is, I want to leave the world a better place than I, inherited it. Stay true to those values and those people. Like, surround yourself with those
Yeah.
people while you're also surrounded with the tech bros and the gazillionaires, because they're both right. Like, literally
Mhm.
both of them are right.
Yeah, money and information, they flow together. 3 years ago, when I was living in Mexico City, and my roommate, who's one of my friends from anthropology, from our studies, she was doing her Fulbright and she was focused on gender-based violence. So on one side, we had Sophia, who was working, with the information, who's where, who needs what, and then me separately working on the tech side, working on AI, and I was writing all of her grant applications, and we won a bunch of that, so we were able to get that money in and redistribute it. And I was like, this is what I need to keep going. I need to keep these people close to me, but someone needs to be the tech bro in this situation. I don't know that that adds to the question, but speaking from that tech bro hat here, how do you envision the strategy? So if scenarioing it out, if I am a founder, why why would I go look at 501(c)(3) investment instead of venture investment? What are the differences?
There's there's some people, like if you're talking to a family office and you're talking to their accountant, they have a fiducial responsibility to make the most money for their client. That's their job. Tax reduction strategy is their number one thing that they're going to go to. And that's what they know. They're all about money. How do I maximize my money? How do I maximize my taxes? How do I, and that's because that's their job. So
Mhm.
if I'm going to talk to an accountant or someone who's in charge of the money, I'm going to go from like, listen, this is how you can get your tax break and catalyze future innovation, which will then make you more money. That's the thing. If I'm talking to the person who's actually has the wealth and they're like one step away from the nitty gritty of how do I get more, get more, get more, then they are going to be, then how I'm going to talk to them is to tell them the story of how their impact can be. And I try to do it less with data and more with stories. One of the companies I represent is solving a problem for children's sarcoma, Ewing sarcoma. It's a type of cancer, early pediatric cancer. Well, I'm not going to say, like, talk about the money. I'm going to talk about kids with cancer. Like, you can give money to the cancer fund, or you can give money to this entrepreneur who is just like you 30 years ago, who has a cure for Ewing sarcoma, and he can't afford to get it to the human trials because he lost his NIH funding. What an amazing legacy that is, that you're the guy who made it possible to cure Ewing sarcoma. The accountant's going to give
Mhm.
the approval. Like, can we do this? How do we do this? What's the mechanism for this? But it's kind of a balance of like, who's the person? What's their motivation? Am I at a business conference or am I at a dinner party?
Shannon, you make it sound very easy and effortless, and this begs the question: where do you find these billionaires?
Yeah, you know what you do? You go to the networking events. So you and I met at the San Francisco Climate Week events.
Yes.
I met, probably 100 different people at that event. And I can say that out of the 10 events that I went to, I probably met 5 people who had a net worth of over $100 million just because they were the speaker at a panel, like a teeny tiny panel of maybe 4 people in a room full of 25 people. And then I got to have that one-on-one conversation of like, oh, you're the guy who created Google Docs? Oh, and then you founded this other company? Oh, okay. Now we're on a one-on-one conversation, we're linking in, and we have like a casual conversation, and all of a sudden you're a friend. So that's where your networking.
How do you suss that out? I mean, you started touching on it, but I meet a lot of people who are, self-described investors, and it was a few weeks in that an investor tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "You have to start asking whether they're deploying capital and how much, because anyone can call themselves an investor." So, what are your tactics for sniffing out the reals?
Well, because I work for a company that has access to PitchBook. They have a $45,000 PitchBook subscription. I can look up people. So if I meet them at an event and I have their name, I can come back to my computer and look them up and see, like, you know, what have they invested in? How much money? How much
Yeah,
do they have? I can do, now with AI, you can do some research. But organically, I just go to people who I think are interesting, and have a nice conversation. There's a lot of people who are very strategic about, like, okay, I'm gonna meet this ultra high net worth individual, and in my experience that never works. People see through that. It's like being at a dinner party. You want to be able to contribute and be funny and ask lots of questions and bring out the best in people. And when you do that, then they get curious about you because you've made them feel good. It's the same way with pretty much any
totally.
networking.
What's that flock like?
That flock is, it's like whenever I'm in a group of people and there's the one kind of famous person who's like a super investor that everybody knows about, like I almost never talk to that person because they're too much. And usually if there's one super high net worth person in the room, there's several. So everyone goes to the one
Right.
everyone knows, and then
Okay.
I'm grabbing coffee with the guy who nobody knows, and it's always a guy. It's almost always a guy over at the coffee thought who's just like, nobody knows here that I have $250 million, but I'll let Jeff over there take all the thing, and you just chit chat organically. Yeah, where there's one, there's many.
I want to circle back to the other side of that, the table there, which is, okay, so why would a startup founder want to take money from a charitable vehicle? Investment, not grants. Second part of that question is how does that exchange or that dialogue with a charitable vehicle differ from VC?
VC, they want to know that their investment is solid, that the business is going to succeed, and they're usually an angel investor. If you're a big VC firm, you're not going to be working with any of the companies that I work with because they're too small. So they're more
Profit driven.
profit driven. Yeah,
Are charitable vehicles not like that when they invest?
no, they are. If you are using your philanthropic capital to invest through a 501(c)(3) in a for-profit company, you're going to be asking the same questions, but you're going to also be asking, what is the outcome? What is the impact? Because that matters to you. And the only reason you're using your philanthropic money to invest in this early stage company is because you personally relate to being that founder, and you're like, I want to support those early stage companies because I remember how hard that was, and there's even less money than when I started, so I want to fill that gap.
But still from the founder perspective, because it sounds like maybe what you've laid out is actually harder. Not only do you have to prove ROI to a charitable investor, but you also have to have a strong mission. Is that right? Or are the requirements for ROI relaxed?
No, but the timelines get relaxed
Okay.
because when you put in investment capital, you're expecting return usually, 5 years. Whereas if you're putting in philanthropic capital, like that money is patient capital. It can grow over time. You don't have to flip out about it because you're not worried about getting your money back. Your horizons get to be a little bit longer, and you're not panicked about getting the return because you know that your charity is going to get the return, not you
Yeah.
personally. And I think emotionally, that's a difference.
Yeah. For our listeners, I think that this would qualify as being An easier pitch or an easier sell to a charitable investor than a VC. Timelines are one of the big crunching points when you take money from a VC. And so if they are relaxed on the charitable side, then especially for mission-oriented startups, I do think that this would be a really viable alternative. And on that note, what resources do founders have to find charitable investors?
So from the founder side, this is a growing industry. It seems like it was only a year or two ago that people realized that you could use charitable entities to invest in for-profit companies. There's a company called Catacap, which was founded by Tim Fraunlich, who did Impact Assets. That's a new company that just started like 6 months ago. There's another one that's called Asset Impact, which is a VC fund that invests in women and marginalized or underfunded founders. My company, which is Next Round Philanthropy, we have all just started using this model to fund early stage companies, but it's growing. So just in the last week, I think I've been to 3 competitors' webinars, but there's 260 billion dollars. We're competitors, but we're not competing. There's all that money. We all need to like get talking about it so we can unlock that money. What if 1% of that $260 billion went to funding early stage founders?
Shannon, I honestly did not know about so much that we spoke about, and I think it's so important to learn about. It just definitely got me thinking about how to balance wanting to make money as a young person, but also caring deeply about various organizations and their cause, because it's not easy to understand how you can do that, but you can. And it should be easier to understand. So I think conversations like this are super important.
Yeah.
And I think that there's the effective altruism, which is the organization on how you can best spend your money to do the good that you wanted to do. And there, I find them a bit rigid, but like when I started out, I thought you had to do good with your like hard labor in places that are low resourced areas. And now, as I'm older, I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I would have just made a ton of money and kept my values. But both of those things are not as easy as you think. When you go get your MBA at Stanford and you're surrounded by all of those people who are just like money, money, money. I got to get more money, get mine, get mine, get mine. Same thing with all the people who are in the NGO world who are making $30,000 a year, even though they have a master's degree or PhD.
Hmm.
They're surrounded by people who don't have any money. And you're like, come on,
Yeah,
we can figure out a middle way here so that the worlds
right.
can meet so that we can unlock both.
Shannon, always our final question. What are you excited about?
I am excited about I'm excited about finding money for some early stage companies that I just think are phenomenal game changers. I'm excited about this new identity I have as a founder, that I've created my own course and I have my own business and I'm doing things for myself out in the world, which just felt like, no, I'm a worker bee. I work for others. And now I'm working for myself and I'm loving it. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for this podcast to be successful because when you contacted me, you were like, one, you were very cool in your branding, and I was like, oh, this looks cool. Who are these people are cooler than I am. And then I'm excited for you to like have the influence that you want to have. I'm excited that you even have that desire, that you want to be founders who do good and connect people. Like, let's lift everybody up so that we can continue doing the good that we want. So like I said to you, Julian, when we met, if there's anything I can do for you and it doesn't have to be for my benefit, I'm happy to help you because that's really all I want to do in life.
Shannon, thanks again for joining.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank
thank you so much.